stand. We'll call the board to order and we'll stand and have a flag salute. I pledge to the flag of the United States of America. The board will now recess to executive session as per ORS 192-6602B to consider the dismissal or disciplining of or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent who does not request an open hearing. ORS 192.6602F to consider records exempt by law from public inspection. So we will recess at this time. Thank you. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? If not, we'll go ahead. On the consent agenda, we have them listed, and there's one on the consent agenda I had a question on, and it's the policy resident student denial of virtual charter schools. And I just asked Mr. Linenberger if he would give some explanation about that, since I know that and I think all the board got a few questions about that and what it means for families in the district.
And policy member, board committee members, feel free to jump in as well. There isn't really anything I'm looking to add from the last meeting. A part of our discussion in policy committee was that if we found to be over the 3% limit, that we would be grandfathering those individuals that are already in the program. And so we're not looking to pull anybody out or pull any families back into the district because of the 3% thresholds. Those folks are going to be grandfathered in. So I'm not sure what other issues or thoughts that you had that you'd like to share, but please feel free.
I know it's on the agenda for later, but are we going to just discuss this now?
Well, it's part of the consent agenda.
Oh,
and
okay.
I think that's why the board chair said, can we stop and talk about this right now?
So the one concern that I ended up having, I went in a little bit, HB 3204 that this policy is based on at the state level, says a little ways down, if it's not on there. If we do not give approval due to 3%, we must provide the current percent, the right to appeal, and then our other online options. And again, this was when we were talking about it, part of it was we have COA. So I am concerned that going forward, if that is a concern, that we would have a gap in what we are offering. And then my thought is that makes families that can go and appeal. I assume they would win the appeal based on not having those other options. And I would just hate to have a burden in that regard that we're not able to help and making them go do that, if that is clear at all.
I'm a little confused. So are you saying that the policy is minus some step, or that you just want constituents to realize there is an appeal process?
So I think part of the problem is HB 3204 is fairly convoluted. It's not the easiest thing to read. But my concern is one of the stipulations is that we have to show them the other online options that we have available through our district. I don't know if that means that if we don't have an online option that.
So Tabitha has been reaching out on our behalf. So if you would please come on up and share the information that you've gleaned. We talked about this very concern.
So we do have to provide 2 additional options, and I've been speaking with Kate from ODE with regards to that. And one of the options obviously is our COA program. The other option is a type of hybrid. So that could be COA and brick and mortar. And I am working with her to come up with that plan. So this will definitely be in compliance with regards to that. So it's being worked on as we speak.
Is your concern that if we get rid of COA, we're in trouble?
More or less. And so part of it was the way I read it, I couldn't tell if it was just we have to tell them, and maybe we tell them we don't have another option if we didn't have COA. And my concern at that point was we're putting an extra burden on families to do some difficult work. I wouldn't want to have to appeal to the Oregon State Board of Education to do something that we basically made it harder for them to do without giving them that option.
Yeah. So I can tell you later in the agenda, we're talking about COA, and I'll be able to fill you in on our plans for that. And we are not getting rid of COA.
I have a question. I know we got an email from a parent that at least publicly wanted to remain anonymous, but wanted us to wait for the vote until any public comment was read about it. I don't see a lot of people. So I didn't know, have we received any public comments that tonight regarding this policy or virtual charter schools that would need to be read?
There's 3 or 4 that I'm going to read that talk about, I think 2 or 3 of them talk about charters.
Okay. Would it be a problem if we moved that or if we heard those first, just since that was a request before we made a vote on that policy.
I don't know that it makes a difference, James. Only in that this is a mandate from the state, right? I think the real questions revolve around what we'll discuss later on, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Phillips, but that involves the future of COA. And it sounds like it's not going away. So sounds like we're trying to remedy the issues that we had with it and move forward with still providing that service. So.
Okay, is there any other further discussion about the consent agenda? Anything?
I did find a small error. If you look on the consent agenda sheet, number 1 on personnel recommendations. Go down near the bottom of that, of number 1, it's Caden Christensen. Do you see that teacher at Mountain View?
Yes.
The next one is Sarah, and she's actually a teacher at Mabel Rush. And it obviously is wrong with Mountain View, but it's actually Mabel Rush.
Any other comments? Thank you to the Austin Family Foundation for a donation to Tiger Manufacturing. Donations are always welcome.
Yeah, I'm just curious about that dollar amount.
So I was too. So they basically Tiger Manufacturing provided them a shopping list of things they wanted, and they just gave them to the penny of what they wanted. So individual items.
For the record, $3,301.09.
Okay, is there any further discussion? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the corrections?
Yeah, I'll move that the Newburgh Dundee Public Schools Board of Directors approve the consent agenda as presented with the minor change to the school for Sarah Henschel.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. Public forum. Do we have any people in person? If not, I think we have a few letters that were submitted.
The first one is from Sarah DeMaster Smith. My name is Sarah DeMaster Smith, and I live in Dundee. My children have benefited from the virtual charter school option because the flexible schedule allowed them to pursue extracurricular activities, often in the evenings, without sacrificing sleep or shortchanging their academic pursuits. Additionally, they have been able to participate in early college programs that allowed them to simultaneously earn college credits while finishing their high school diplomas. This will help make college more affordable. I do not believe that capping the number of students that are allowed to leave the district is a good idea, because Newburgh Dundee families should have the right to choose a public education that best fits their children's individual needs. Thank you for considering my input. Sarah DeMaster Smith. Next one is from Todd Waters. My name is Todd Waters, and I live in Newburgh. We have 3 kids in Newburgh schools, and we value all the board and teachers do to support our students. During COVID, we shifted to a national online accredited school for the entire year for our 5th and 7th graders because the online version of Newburgh schools was lacking. During that year, we discovered, 1, my stay-at-home wife became a full-time administrator, taking many hours each day for guidance and discipline. 2, the academic standards were much higher compared to Newburgh. So much homework. Please do not cap the number of students that are allowed to leave the district. 1, very few families could manage migrating to online school anyway. 2, those that do might be desperate. And 3, instead of restricting access to competition, why not learn from it to improve the Newburgh schools? Thanks. And the last one is from John and Dana Grover. Virtual charter schools are important to maintain as an alternative because each student and family is unique with unique needs. Our family has been able to meet our kids' needs by engaging in options outside of the Newburgh School District. Capping the number of students that are allowed to leave the district will make it challenging for families facing similar issues. This could sadly result in families leaving Newburgh altogether, which may hurt the local economy, neighborhood communities, and property values, which fund the taxes to pay for the schools. Education methods have been evolving rapidly from pre-K through post-secondary. Alternative options to the district's offerings allows our kids, our futures, to take advantage of these new methods. A 3% cap leaves very few, if any, additional students the ability to receive their best education. Please consider adopting this policy. Sincerely, John and Dana Grover, Newburgh residents and parents of teens.
Okay, thank you. So the next thing is reports, presentations, and discussion items. So Heather, March expenditures and revenue report, please.
So we're still on track with revenues and with expenditures. Emailed out to you, I also included a breakdown, which is not part of the board packet, of the COA expenses for the year. So you would have seen that as an extra attachment, just as an information item, so you could see how much was spent at the elementary, middle, and high school levels. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions about the expenditures?
How do you feel about us getting into the end of the year with not too many deficits or concerns? Like, how are you feeling?
I feel pretty good about it. I think overall we've been pretty fiscally responsible. I think that the natural attrition of the district, we shouldn't see major staffing impacts because we're able to manage those current vacancies from retirements and people moving on, that it shouldn't be an issue. So we've tried to keep a close eye on that and make sure that we have minimal impact on our staff, especially as far as we're not gonna be another school district that's announcing huge layoffs, stuff like that.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question about page 3, it's 204, student body funds, right? That's what you've been working on to kind of bring together under kind of your guidance, right? Where it's
Yes.
like the Tiger manufacturing or whatever, right?
Yep.
Third line in that one, where it's 658% of spending or of percent used. What do you have any insight on that or what's happening there?
So what I can tell you is that the high school extracurricular activities, they raise their own money and then they spend it. So the more money they raise, the more money they're going to spend, basically, because that's what they do is they have fundraisers, and we can't know from year to year exactly how much we think they're going to spend. And so because it's a student body fund, that piece of the accounting is not a concern with the auditors, because there's not really a way to control it. You guys would be approving probably 30 or 40 resolutions a month if we had to recognize revenue that we didn't anticipate. So we will likely do a cleanup at the end of the year where we will recognize some of their revenues from different fundraisers that will help bring their balance more into focus. But it's not like your other funds where you only budget this much and that's all you can spend because it's student body funds.
So I'm just trying to think of this basic family economics here. Like I can't spend more money than I have in my checking account, right? So how are they spending more money than we have bucketed for them?
Because we don't have, their money is not in our checking account. They have their own checking account. So whatever money they raise
Right.
So it would be like if they went out and got a part-time job, or if your family economics, if you went out and got a part-time job for 3 months that you didn't know you were going to get, and you received income from that, then it's showing in your balance, even though it may not have been in your annual budget because you weren't anticipating it.
Okay. Is there anywhere, and maybe it's on this spreadsheet, is there anywhere showing that what's come in and what's gone out that equals more zero instead of waiting to the end of the year? I know it's their money, but like, again,
Yeah.
they're
So,
out about it, budget balance was $162,000. I mean, that's a huge amount of money. And I know it's kind of going through them. I'm just making sure that if we're on top of it, like, where do I see that they've raised $162,000?
so if you look in their revenues, they should have revenues to offset that as well.
Okay.
So right now, their current balance this year that they brought in is $1,022,324.
Or the numbers should line up, right? So 204, 1132.
Well, you won't see the 1132 because 1132 is an expense account,
Okay.
but 204 and 204, yes.
Yeah.
If I'm hearing this right, though, they couldn't use money from our funds to pay for anything, so, and they're not like they're taking a credit out for it, it's money that has to be in their account for them to spend it.
Correct. And their student body council actually maintains that with assistance from a secretary at the high school, and she manages their funds currently on a program called Blue Bear. And so at any time I can ask her for a breakdown of what is the balance of each one of your student body accounts, and she can within 2 minutes have me a balance off of each one of those student body accounts. So because I don't have the visibility right now in our accounting software, that's kind of what we've done. But moving forward, hopefully starting next year, we will have that visibility and we will see it adjusting on the revenue and expense report every single month.
And you said that's the new software that we're going to purchase or will be purchasing for next year, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Did that answer your question about the visibility on the revenue?
I still, to me, I mean, it's close, right? I see that lots of revenues come in, but to me, there should be a clear track to say high school expenditures come in, revenue to that going out. And so, I don't know, it's just the way the spreadsheet is and the way that we just, maybe it's just a new way of looking at it that I haven't looked at from a district before, right? So.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for Heather? Okay, calendars, Dr. Phillips, academic and board.
All right, so you've got a number of calendars in front of you, and I want to be really clear. This is not an action item. This is for you to get a look at it. We hope to get them approved next month. So if we look at draft option 1A, which should be the first one, you'll see that the last week of August is when teachers and staff come back. Those are in yellow. Labor Day is the 2nd. And then the first day for school for kids is the 3rd. They're Tuesday the 3rd. If you remember the survey that we had with the community, they wanted to start after Labor Day. If we go through the calendar a little bit, if you get to November, they wanted a week of Thanksgiving. That's in there. Couple weeks of winter break. Spring break's a week. Go to the end of the year. Last day for kids would be Thursday, the 12th, and last day for staff would be Friday, the 13th. Some of the question marks, and the reason why this isn't ready for approval is we're negotiating right now with the teachers, and we're still working on what spring and fall conferences look like. And so in October, you'll see on this calendar, it shows the 17th, that in the morning on the 17th, kids are in school. And then in the afternoon, there's conferences. And then the next day, there's conferences in the morning. And then teachers are off Friday, the afternoon Friday. We've got that same thing going on in the spring in February. What we thought was important to get out for the community was so families could see when school year is going to start, when it's going to end, when the breaks are, things like that. So I think it's fair to say this calendar is 95% done. But I'm not seeking approval because, like I said, we're still working on a couple details with the teachers. Now, option B, the only difference between A and B are the spring conferences. Instead of in February, we bumped them down to April. There's some, thoughts on maybe if we meet with the kids during third trimester, it would make some more sense rather than in the middle of the second trimester. So that's the difference between A and B. Start times are all the same. Holidays are all the same. So the gist of what I'm trying to get at is the only flexible thing is what conferences are going to look like, and maybe where the spring one will land. Any questions about that one?
I just have a question. Are any of the conferences in the evening for parents at all?
Yes, sorry. Both on the October 17th and then on the February 13th, those conferences are in the afternoon and evening. And so kind of think about teachers work in the morning with kids, and then they conference for kind of another day. So they put in an extra half day, and then the next day they conference in the morning, and then they're off. So they work a day and a half to make 2 days. So yes, one evening in the fall and spring. So if you have any questions between now and, next month, please let me know, but that's kind of where we are there. Now there's 3 calendars specific for the board, calendar A, B, C. A is what we did this year, which is a board meeting every 2 weeks, or excuse me, every month, the second Tuesday of the month. Okay, in blue. That one's pretty easy. Option B is trying to do a work session or a second board meeting 4 times throughout the year. So September has 2, December has 2, March has 2, and then June has 2. And it was a little clunky because with holidays and where to put them and that thing, etc. Option C is similar to B, but instead of 4 extra board meetings throughout the year, there's 3 extra. So it's in September, January, and May. So one less, spread out a little differently. So once again, I want to present these to you now. We have a month to think about it. If you want any other calendars, I guess, proposed, we're happy to build them. And then we can present them to you next month as an action item. Any questions? All right.
No questions for you, but Nancy, I guess I would maybe ask this you or lean on you a little bit on this one. I like the kind of the in between where it's 1 a month and 4 extra. I know we're not voting on it, but that's just my initial thought. But on the ones that there are extras, is maybe kind of line it to maybe where we as a board have more of a heavier things to look at, like evaluations, I don't know, policy, budget, whatever, and try to see if this 4 makes sense in the way they're laid out, or if we need to maybe realign them just a little bit. Maybe be more selective on what 3 or 4 we choose.
That's a good idea. When I look at the 4, one of them is during a spring break. And I know that people that have children probably would not want to have an extra board meeting during spring break. And the other one is right up against Christmas vacation, and December seems to be a busy month. So that, I think if we had 4, we'd have to realign those dates. So I think if people would, send me an email about what dates or might be better, or Dr. Phillips.
Yeah, I would, what I think, Director Hayden, what I think I heard you say and I like is we don't want these second board meetings just to be another board meeting because they get bogged down in the minutia of a board meeting. I think they need to be special and targeted, if that's what you're.
Agreed. I mean, if there's maybe like a month or a season that like, hey, we know we have stuff coming up, that might just take extra time and be worth action to not trying to cram in 3-hour executive session and 2-hour board meeting one night. If there's just things we can try to maybe spread out that month because of whatever's on our plate. So.
Trevor, did you have something you wanted to add?
Oh, I was just gonna say, so these 3 or 4 extra board meetings that we put on the calendar, those are more placeholders, right? They're as an as-needed basis, or
That's not how I envisioned it. I envisioned it that they would happen and we would just be deliberate about what we're doing that night. But you're the board.
When we've talked about this, in leadership, one of the things that we've talked about is like, it'd be nice to have one board member about literacy. Like really to talk about what's the school district doing for literacy for students, to really talk more about, our goals. Or, and maybe another one, you've sent a strategic plan. How are we doing on strategic plan? What do we need to do? Do we need to revamp it? Do we need to? So they would be specifically targeted so that they are meeting the board goals of focusing on students and student achievement.
You covered that, so that's what I was gonna say. Just
Okay, so any other comments about academic and board council? One thing, I think because we did the survey, start times is,
They're on the calendar,
They're-
near the bottom.
okay.
Yep.
So they remain the same because after the survey? Okay. COA, Dr. Phillips.
Okay, so last month's board meeting, we talked a little bit about COA and some of the concerns that we had with COA. And when we met with the COA staff, we heard from a lot of families and parents and children about COA and the value COA is. Had another meeting. I didn't participate in it, but COA staff set it up and had a Zoom meeting with some ODE staff and recorded it, which is great. And in that meeting, ODE said that things are looking pretty good. And that what COA is doing, I think it's fair to say it's not perfect. It's not 100% dialed in, but it's a good program and it's doing what it needs to do, and we can continue doing COA. So my angst was, well, why did we hear one thing from one ODE person and another thing from another ODE? Well, I think different questions were asked of the two different ODE people. The original ODE person that was talked to about COA was, what would happen? What would we need to do to COA if we were to make it its own school? Like we talked about months and months ago. When we made Catalyst its own school, we also talked about making COA its own school. So this representative from ODE, their opinion was if we wanted to make COA its own school, then it is not where it needs to be. The second ODE person, the question wasn't asked, do we make it its own school? Are we doing okay if we keep it a program within a school? And like I said, they were, COA staff explained to them what we do at COA, how COA works. And for the vast majority of it, they were happy and they were satisfied and they felt that COA was doing a good job. So I feel very comfortable with that, especially since it's recorded with ODE that says what we're doing is right. After that, I then met with COA staff again and we talked about it. Our concern is still recruiting. We do need some more kids, especially in K-5 COA to make it pencil out a little stronger. They're working on that. I popped in there just yesterday and I was told in the last couple of weeks, they've grown by 4 or 5 kids. And so, I've emailed a few COA families back who have emailed me and assured them that we were keeping COA, and I appreciated their comments and I think I saw some COA staff come in and so far so good. Have I said everything? Okay. So yeah, I think we're in a good place. Obviously, we would love COA to grow. We'd love to get some more kids. And just to be clear, when you're talking COA finances, if 5 kids from Edwards leave Edwards and go to COA, it helps COA, but it doesn't help the school district any. It's a wash. So when we need kids, we need some of those homeschool families that aren't ours to help us out, or maybe even some of those online charter families that would leave online charter and give COA a shot. So that's what we've talked about with COA. The staff there are, I think, energized and ready to keep doing good work and have some recruitment ideas. Any questions?
Since the COA people came in late, and I think there was some other community people, does anybody want, or do we have time for anybody to, did they want to say anything in light of it or anything, or any input? No? Okay. Okay, great.
My question would be, what are the next steps to bolster it, to make it so that we can recruit those other charter students who we hear these public comments that make it better? What can we do? Is there any thoughts on those next steps to make sure that we are giving the best product in that way?
Yeah, one of the ideas is when we do kindergarten roundup for all of our elementaries, is to have a kindergarten roundup for COA. We've never done that before that I'm aware of. And so a kindergarten roundup. Another thing is, a year ago, I wrote a grant through the Austin Foundation to partner with homeschool families and try to build a relationship with them. We do have money left over in that grant. And so this summer, we're going to do a program where it's with COA kids and homeschool kids to come in and receive some STEM 4 days of 3 hours a day, STEM. And we're hoping that that kind of outreach, things like that, pay off. So I think, yeah, communicate, outreach, continue, and just try to partner. Homeschool families, they do a great job, but they leave things on the table. We have resources they don't have. And so I think partnering with them makes a lot of sense.
Just looking back at like the calendar, I think it would be great for one of those extra meetings to really get to go into detail, like what software is being used, how that works, so that I think we could all be better stewards of the program. Because admittedly, I don't know enough about it, and I would love to know more. And so just, yeah, I think that if we can set aside time that it's not a busy, packed meeting to really go into detail on some of that stuff, I think would be helpful for all of us in the district.
Right.
If there are no further questions about that, Trevor DeHart, Saul, and James, Parental Bill of Rights from the Policy Committee.
So we were asked to take a look at the Parents' Bill of Rights, and we've done that. We had a pretty lengthy discussion on what was in the Parents' Bill of Rights, what we were trying to accomplish with this. And I think we came to a unanimous agreement that based on the stuff that's in the Parents' Bill of Rights, we didn't feel like it belonged in a policy. And with that said, feel free to jump in anytime. With that said, we do see the value in what's laid out in the Bill of Rights. And although we didn't feel like it belonged in a policy, it really coalesces, consolidates rights that parents already have, right? And so it's really what's the word I'm looking for? A document that really reflects what we value as a school district. And some of the ideas that we had were to put that, front and center on the website. That's one of the first things that people see when they come to our website is the things that we value, right? Maybe an extension of the mission and vision, right? It's things that we're committed to as a district. We recognize the parent, guardian, child relationship and the rights inherent with that, and that extends to the schools when they drop off their kids and trust the school district with their education. They don't lose those rights, right? So the rights that they, individuals, parents, guardians already have, but we felt that it was better placed somewhere else besides a policy.
I think Trevor or Director DeHart said it very well. These are all things that we really do care a lot about. My biggest problem, and I will say again, I regret the way that we went about getting rid of it. But after talking about it, it didn't really change the way that I felt, just that it's not policy. Policy is a way to, or a method of action that, given certain conditions, guides and determines present and future decisions. So if something happens, what do we do? And I still feel that a lot of these, I would love to go more in depth. If there's a change in mental or physical health at school, what is the process to do that? Not that you have the right to know that, but I think that we need to really spell that out. What would we do? So if we were to go down that road, I think that you could have a policy on some of these things. But there were also a few other discussion points in that larger community discussion that I really think we could use one of those extra meeting times to go into and talk about some of these great ideas that we learned from the community that I feel like we don't get a chance to get that kind of input on a regular basis. So I would hate to let that go to waste, because the notes that I saw had a lot of really good ideas that I didn't feel were addressed in that, partially due to the difficulty of writing policy for these kind of specific things. But I am very interested to make sure that we all come together to find ways where we can let everyone know that we do. We want parents to be involved. We want parents to have these rights and to be involved in their children's education and beyond. So I do hope that if you get a chance to see that discussion, or at least this, that I want to commit to that, and I hope that we all would want to as well.
Yeah, I want to echo some of that. I also like the idea of it being like a commitment versus a Bill of Rights. I think some of my issues as the person who brought that forward was Bill of Rights was a political hot button. It was a topic. It invoked something, and maybe that wasn't intended. But I think that echoing a commitment to parents, as both Directors DeHart and Alan said, I think one of the other things echoed in a lot of the discussions, and what I also saw in a lot of the notes from those work sessions with the community was that parents sometimes have a hard time finding what policies we do have. So maybe if we put that front and center on there, maybe the link to some of those policies would be really helpful too. So some of those discussion things of, here are your rights as parents in the specific policies. So parents have a really quick reference rather than having to just dig through. Cause even as board members, it can get really confusing. Like, oh, it's KN, it's AR this, it's BDEFG. So I think it might be helpful to have that in that final form when you get that there as well. But yeah, I think there's a lot of notes from those community sessions that didn't end up making it to that final policy that I think we can, with a commitment on the website, more encompass and be more inclusive of what the community wanted through those sessions.
So when would this be applied to the website? And have you guys talked about that?
I mean, I think part of that is setting up a work session that allows us to have time to talk as a board, because it seems like that would be our decision to make. And I don't think it'll be a quick, in the middle of this meeting to be like, yeah, we'll put this one in here. I spent a lot of time over this weekend trying to look for those policies, and it's really hard. Part of that's because policy is not fun to read. It's not a narrative. So I think that finding ways that we can really say the way that we go about these things. I think that I probably have more questions about certain procedures than I did before. But I would put it on, I guess, leadership to maybe see when we could have a time to have a work session. But I really feel like we need to have a discussion that isn't rushed after executive session before 10.
I would agree. I would ask, is this going back to the policy committee to update this as to have the links to, the suggestion for the links to all the policies, or is that something that somebody should be volunteering for?
I'm under the impression that it's not policy, so
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a policy.
Yeah, it's
No, I'm not-
a
I'm not-
policy Committee, but you could set up your own committee, because your policy BCE does allow for you as a board to set up an ad hoc committee or to develop a committee if you need to.
I don't know if it's committee worthy. I'm just saying, I didn't know, the recommendation was not to have as a policy. That's fine. And yes, it does seem, as I said it and you guys commented back, doesn't maybe go back to them. Just there's some legwork that needs to be done. I'm just wondering who's doing that legwork if we are going to take Director Wolfer's suggestion of doing links underneath it. Like, who's going to do all that time to research it?
I think once the board decides what they want, we can get it done. We can get the links and hot link them and all, we can make that happen. We just need to know what you want.
So I would really love to have a board retreat. And I think this would be a great topic of conversation for a board retreat. Because if it's not a policy, then it's a statement of with some like title to it that hopefully isn't politically charged one way or the other. And then it does reflect the values of our school district and the board and the families. So I keep thinking this would be a great topic for a board retreat.
I second that. I didn't know it's on motion.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah, I think it'd be good too if we print it out. I mean, I know it's been a long time since those parent sessions and things, but print out all the notes and bring those with us. And I like the idea of a separate retreat or work session or whatever, but we can really give it the time and effort that this community obviously deserves and wants. It's been made known over and over again that this is a topic that I think all sides are passionate about. So I think we want to do it justice.
So the question is, do you want to try to set another quote kind of retreat, which would be an evening between now and then July 1st, or how soon do you want to consensus on this?
I mean, I think we could do it sooner rather than later would be helpful, but I think if we at least start the process before the summer or like before the school year starts, I think that would be very helpful so that going into next year, it's fresh, it's on the page, it's new parents existing and new parents coming into the district can see that front and center. So I think as long as we could have whatever we need to do to have it finalized before the school year starts.
So you're saying it could wait until June or July? Okay.
Maybe to start it and then, but I'd want to make sure that we had plenty of time to get it done, and then the district staff had plenty of time to implement and not feel rushed. So
Well, I know that May, we have a potential of 3 budget committee meetings. And so that's a little busy. So in May, June might be a good time.
I think that's a great idea. I would hate to put off the idea of making an ad hoc committee. I think that in our policy committee, we're able to have good substance conversations because, you know, it's a little bit more intimate. I feel like it's a little bit more free flowing, knowing that there's not that kind of time constraint that this kind of meeting has. And I think if anything could happen to get the ball rolling with ideas going into that, to give us discussion, to give us directions and ideas of what we might want to do, could be very helpful.
So Saul, are you volunteering to head up an ad hoc committee?
If we think that's something that everyone would like to do, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I guess my hope would be, I don't know that we need an ad hoc committee. I'd just like to get together with a focused, whether it's a board retreat or just a working session focused solely on this. I think we can get a lot of the work done in one of those sessions.
I think if we need to, we could stand up an ad hoc committee if that session leaves a bunch of stuff unresolved that just needs to be worked through. But I think if we can get, I mean, we're not that huge. There's 7 of us. I think we can come to represent our communities well and get it done.
since calendars are a big issue anyway for summer, are people willing to say that you want to start it like the 4th Tuesday in June? I'm just picking a date, without my calendar out. Otherwise, I find that if we don't set dates, nothing happens.
Maybe you can send an email out with a couple of different dates to everybody. So we're
Okay,
not doing
we
it
can do
like
that.
right now. And
Okay,
then
we'll
people can
set-
kind of say this time works
Okay.
good for me.
We can do that. We'll send an email out with possible dates in June or if later, if those don't work, July. Okay, thank you. The next is that what we talked about in your packet, it has that we can have board committees. And we've discussed, Deb and I have discussed this with Dr. Phillips and Mr. Linenberger, and that there might be 2 committees that would be helpful, especially since we know there's going to be some bond money left over from the bond. And the first one would be a facilities committee of 3 people that would support the board's goal to maintain and care for the district facilities by participating in the development of a facility plan, access and address the long-term maintenance and growth and needs of the district. And so are there any board members? First off, I should ask, is there consensus that this committee would be helpful?
I agree, it would be helpful.
Okay, well, we have one person.
Yeah, I would agree too.
Okay, so are there any board members who would volunteer to serve on a facilities committee at this point? Trevor and Jeremy, both? Okay, count 2. Is there a third person who would be interested in serving on a facilities committee? I think that I envision this as working with Dr. Phillips, looking at schools, seeing talking about, what are needs in the district that, the whole board you would bring to the board.
Does it need 3? I mean, I think up to 3 is
Yeah.
usually, because then you're not a quorum, but
Yeah. It doesn't have to have 3, could be 2. Okay, we have 2 people. I guess we, later on, we will have board action on that to have a motion for that. Personnel committee, same thing, to guide the board in its annual review, the superintendent make recommendations regarding the provision of the superintendent. It is the board's duty to do a formal evaluation every year and then to publish that publicly. And I think it'd be helpful to have 2 or 3 people work on that and then collect everybody's input and then compile it into one document for board approval.
So I think it'd be important to have board leadership. So the chair and the vice chair do it, and then a third person.
I think one thing I'm curious about, so I saw these other points, make recommendations regarding the superintendent's contract, recommend procedures for the recruitment and selection of a new superintendent.
Well, those aren't relevant, the last two.
Okay, I was gonna say, yeah, this, we just took care of
Yeah, we
those.
took care of that. That was just like, out of a format from OSBA that if you had a contract.
So really, this
It's big-
committee would only be to help with the annual review.
Right now, yes.
I'll volunteer.
Okay. So we have 3 volunteers, so I guess we can move on to action then. Is there motions that Jeremy and Trevor serve on a facilities committee?
I move that the Newburgh Dundee Public School Board of Directors appoint Directors Hayden and DeHart to the Facilities Committee.
Second.
All those in favor? Same for board members for Personnel Committee?
I move that the Newburgh School Board of Directors select appoint Deb Bridges, Nancy Woodward, and James Wolfer to the Personnel Committee.
Discussion? All those in favor?
I-
It's, a second, sorry.
I second.
Okay, second. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, next on board action is an extension of a contract for health or for facilities, right? For heating, air conditioning, HVAC.
Yes, that's correct. So back in 2019, Newburgh School District entered into an agreement with HMS for the controls for the HVAC systems district-wide. That contract ended on March 31st. However, since we're still in the basically the last year of bond projects, we're requesting that we extend their contract an additional year. I talked to them. I was able to get them to guarantee their labor rates the same as what they did for our HVAC maintenance. And I was also able to get them to lower their markup on materials by 30%. So I'd like to have board approval to extend that contract. You guys are considered the contract board for Newburgh Public Schools, so you guys can make that decision to extend the contract 1 year.
Are there any questions about this? If not, is there a motion for approval?
I have a question. So I thought last meeting we had proposals. Well, I thought it was HVAC systems, was it not?
It was the HVAC maintenance and repairs.
Okay.
The control system is the computer system that controls. So it's the computer system that controls how HVAC works in our buildings, and it's all controlled remotely. So like setting temperatures, resetting thermostats, all that
Mhm.
kind of stuff is all done through the controls. And then if you have problems with any of your control boards, those are covered under a different service agreement.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a separate, kind of like your fire system. It has a motherboard that controls the fire alarms.
Mhm.
And so this is a kind of a motherboard that controls all of your HVAC. And so that's why there's 2 separate contracts.
So just to clarify, I think I understand. So the other contract we approved last time was more for any of the physical labor, hardware, whatever. This is more of the software and the control panel basically for.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Is there a motion for approval?
Yeah, I'll move that the Newburgh Dundee Public School Board of Directors approve the 1-year extension of the contract between the district and HMS Commercial Service as presented.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. The next one is roofing.
So before I touch on the roofing, I do just want to clarify, last month there was a question about the generator at Maple Rush. I believe it was Director Hayden that had asked the question, was it a replacement? Was it a initial purchase? What was the reasoning behind it? And we didn't have an answer to it. So did some research to find out what that was. And it turns out that Maple Rush was the only school in the district that did not have a backup generator. Initially, they thought they could tie it to Catalyst as part of their remodel, but with construction at Catalyst coming in so close to pricing, they weren't able to make that happen. So instead, they proposed that we install a new generator at Maple Rush that would be its sole generator just for that school. So now all of our districts are supported by their own generator.
Thank you.
Yep. So the next one is the approval for the contract to enter into a contract with Snyder Roofing for NHS Area A roof project. Just to confirm, this is the Commons area and the main office, and it is to repair existing roof leaks. And good news on this one, they anticipated that bids would come in over $1 million. And the one that we are looking to award came in at $600,610. So that was they were quite impressed with that.
With that bid, was there any like guarantee of work or warranty or whatever, labor? Oh. Right?
Yes, they all have guarantees.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, is there a motion that's in our packet?
Move that the Newburgh Dundee Public School Board of Directors approve the small construction project contract for the Newburgh High School Area A roof project with contractor Snyder Roofing as presented.
Second.
All those in favor? We have one other action item. This comes out of executive session, and there'll be one motion and then a second motion.
I move to authorize the superintendent to sign an agreement. Sorry, this is messed up. I move to authorize the superintendent to sign a settlement agreement between the district and Lindsay Hayden, consistent with the terms and conditions reviewed in executive session and in a form approved by district legal counsel.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? And motion carries?
So read the second one.
Yes.
I
please.
move that the board accept the resignation of Lindsay Hayden and rescind its prior decision to non-renew her employment contingent on 3 things occurring by April 30, 2024. 1, an agreement is signed by both parties. 2, the agreement is not revoked within the 7-day revocation period. And 3, the employee has discharged her obligations under the agreement. If these actions do not occur, the board's rescission of the non-renewal shall be void.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Okay, motion is passed. Now we have student representative and board and superintendent comments.
I did state testing today for the juniors, so I did the like English part. I didn't opt out of it. There was a lot of students doing it. So yeah, that was a good time. In ASB, we've been doing a lot of stuff, just a ton of different like committee work, proms this week. So assemblies, just a ton of stuff, prom on Saturday. There was a conference that we hosted at Newburgh, I think the Renaissance, like something. And so since then, just kind of been very much focusing on school culture, how we can make it a good atmosphere, just kind of little things just to bring smiles to people's faces. And then besides that, just spring sports are in full swing. We have a home track meet tomorrow against Liberty. Yeah, just really good season, I think, carrying on energy until the end of the school year for everybody.
Our FFA chapter today placed second in district floriculture competition. And so there you go.
I just ran back from a choir, our league competition over at Century High School, and we took first place for the second year in a row. So yeah, after watching some really good choirs, that was really exciting. And then I have our league orchestra competition tomorrow, so hopefully that'll go well too. And we just started rehearsals for our next musical, which is really fun, which I'm doing head of costumes for. So yeah.
What's the musical?
The Drowsy Chaperone, Junior.
Okay, board comments. We'll just go on around this way.
I'll pass.
Okay.
I'd just like to say thanks for Dr. Phillips and all his staff for all the work you did on the COA issue. That was definitely got a lot of attention, and I appreciate the due diligence that you put into that and the good news you presented tonight.
I got to see the final play this last month. Really awesome. I love going back to the high school and seeing everybody have a great performance up there. I also want to thank you guys for the COA, and I hope that we can keep building on those type of things to deliver all the best types of education, whether it's brick and mortar or otherwise, to make sure that we're doing that for all the students out there.
Yeah, I just want to echo the comments on COA. Thank you, Dr. Phillips and staff, for your hard work on that. And also, I'm just kind of excited about some of the things that were hinted at in this board meeting about just some of the ways we can build it in the future and reach out. I like the kindergarten roundup idea and just some of the ways we can just, get some marketing on it and grow the program so that, so that it continues to grow and is and improve. So.
Okay, well, it's kind of random, but I was like scrolling through my Pinterest board because I love doing that. And my husband always tells me not to, but now I'm like really getting into it because of some of the design stuff that we're doing. But as I was scrolling through the Pinterest board, I came across this little saying, and so I just would like to read it because I thought it might speak a lot to somebody maybe. Always pray to have eyes that see the best in people, a heart that forgives the worst, a mind that forgets the bad, and a soul that never loses faith in God. So I think that I'm gonna leave it at that. So.
I got to see the play also. Very good job. And it was fun. So good job for the high school students as you finish out the school year.
All right. I have another list of students that I wanted to brag about. You guys stole a little bit of it, but I'll repeat it. So NHS Orchestra, they qualified for the tape pool for the OSAA state championships. FFA, second place, mentioned that. Newburgh High School band took second today at League Festival, which qualifies them for state. And then, as Trisha said, choir will also go to state for being first in league. So great job to them and their directors. They do really good work. And then Kingston, Gottfried, Daniel Beals, and Mia Ramirez from our high school all qualified to compete at the National Thespian Festival this summer. So that's really cool. NHS's robotics club called the Nerd Herd. They qualified for nationals later this summer. Isaac Hampton, he's a senior, one of our wrestlers, 3-time state champ. He was named the Oregon Boys Wrestler of the Year. I believe he was also the tournament wrestler of the tournament. So that was awesome. Patrick Tab Scott was recognized as a National Student of the Month by Jostens. 3 of our high school seniors have been accepted into military academies, which is a pretty big deal. Isaac Hampton, Naval Academy, Trevor Johnson, Naval Academy, and Nathan Call, the Air Force Academy. It's quite an honor. And then I was going to mention that one of our, not all the juniors, but one of the pods of juniors started their testing this week. And so good luck to them, and thank you for your hard work, and also the staff to prepare and take it seriously and give it your all. I appreciate that. Lastly, we're in negotiations with the teachers now. We've met 3 different times. We schedule each time for a couple hours, and we always go long. So we're probably 7, 8, 9 hours in, and it's going well. We obviously don't agree on everything because it's negotiations, and that's not how it works. But I think so far it's gone well. Drew and his team have been great to work with. I like to think we've been good to work with, and we meet again a week from tonight, and then we meet every 2 weeks. So far so good.
If there are no other comments or anything, the meeting is adjourned.